Everything is programmed. I'd like to start off by saying Barakatah Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rucha Kudash. Welcome to another live lesson. The name of this one, as you heard, everything is programmed. Now, I was listening to a couple of videos on my walk this morning, and pretty much one of the videos I listened to was this one here. You know, Granny kept it 100 on modern day Eve. And I want to play a little part of this video, you know, because it started to get my mind going. And then right after this video was a Kim Iverson video, you know, about AI, you know, and Lord's will I can remember. I'm not going to play any of that video. Lord's will I can remember some of the key points, you know, but it kind of all, you know, meshes together because, you know, when you look at the word program, right? Program is a set of related measures or activities with a particular long-term aim. And that's the case. So when you program something not just for the moment. You program it for, you know, the future, for long term. The problem with today, modern day woman today, beginning with Eve, the Judite woman, is they're programmed for the moment. They're programmed, you know, with the, you know, documentary, as Elder Apostle Ricard calls it, you know, they clone Tyrone, you know, and that's pretty much the mindset because these are the monsters that Esau created. You know, it's an assembly line of demonic activity that is, you know, abominable to the Most High Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, but in this world is looked at as being the norm or being what's acceptable. And if you don't do that, then you're, you know, you're a square. You know, you're that square peg that tries to fit into the round hole. You're not accepted because you don't, you don't do, you know, the debaucherous things that these people out here do. You know, which made me think of Stacey Lattisaw. Now, Stacey Lattisaw was a singer back in the days. You know, she had, you know, many different hits, beautiful voice. She did songs with Johnny Gill. You know, the Perfect Combination was one of them. You know, so on and so forth. And she had a beautiful voice. But what it was is her record label, to sell more records, they wanted her to start dressing skimpy, you know, to start showing more flesh and so on and so forth. And she wasn't with it. You know, she was a modest woman. You know, she didn't want, you know, to do those things. So therefore, after a while, you didn't hear any more of her, you know, because she regarded her moral values more than that, you know, fame that she had, you know. So today it's the total opposite. You know, today, you know, the more debaucherous you are, the more freaky you are, the more demonic you are, the more accepted you are, the more money you make, you know, and they make it like something that's normal. And this is the behavior that's going to get this place destroyed because this is the behavior that brought about the flood, you know, way back in the days, you know, during the time when the earth became so wicked that the Lord said, I'm going to destroy man from the face of the earth. And he destroyed man by water. And he said no longer would, you know, he would not destroy the earth by water anymore, but never said anything about fire. And he established, you know, the rainbow, which is a beautiful, you know, symbol. But these devils took it and corrupted it, you know, and made it a Mo flag, you know, made it something that if you wear a rainbow shirt, they automatically label you as a Mo. If you wear anything like a rainbow wristband or necklace or, you know, or headband or something, they think that you're a Mo. And really in this society you are. You know, you can't wear something that's beautiful that the Most High created as a covenant with the earth and with man, you know, because they corrupted it here in this society, you know, and the rainbow is a beautiful symbol, but it's corrupted. So it goes on to say a series of coded software instructions to control the operation of a computer or other machine, which pretty much is heavy because this leads into the video that Kim Iverson did on AI. Okay. So everything is programmed and everything is programmed by either the, well, everything is programmed by the Most High, you know, and then men on the earth program, you know, also they also program things to function in the manner that they want it to function. So it says here, verb, provide a computer or other machine with coded instructions for the automatic performance of a task, you know, and that's pretty much what AI is about. You know, it says arrange according to a plan or schedule. Okay. Now, let's, you know, let's read the judgment, Inside Joke. Let's play this clip. You know, fair use, fair use, fair use. I don't own the copyrights to this video. I'm just using it for educational purposes. I'm not making any money off of this video. It's just for educational purposes. So listen good. And let me know if you can hear it, you know, once I start playing it.
Only. We got women thinking it's important to brag about high body counts, to mock modesty to the point that they got everything out, to frame marriage as slavery and prostitution. I heard somebody say that being married is you nothing but a unpaid prostitute. To see somebody frame marriage in such a derogatory manner, and then if you submit, you're considered weak and stupid. And if you choose to be,
can everybody hear it? I don't see any comments going up that they could hear it. Let me get something, a thumbs up or something. Okay, good. The water.
Be faithful, they dismissed you as being, that's out of date. And they consider this celebration of liberation from what? This is not liberation. This is wounded women.
Yep.
Redefining standards to justify pain. And then recruiting other women into that same confusion.
Right. So
pain does not.
Pretty much, you know, that's what it is. It's a programming of Esau programming these women pretty much, you know, to function in the way that they want other women to function, and pull, you know, the women that have some type of, you know, some type of moral scruples or moral discipline to them, to be corrupt just like they are, because this is the world that Esau wants. He wants a total world of chaos and confusion, because that's who he is. That's how he functions. This is how he operates. This is what he's comfortable with. So he wants to be around something that he's comfortable with, because this is his world right now. Right? So she said, pain does not
qualify someone to give guidance.
Yep. And that's true. Pain does not qualify someone to give guidance, because if you operating on that, pretty much you're operating off of emotion. Emotion cannot teach. Emotion is a reaction based off of, you know, something that you may have gone through. You know, when you teaching somebody something, you're teaching them a lifelong lesson. You're teaching them things that's going to keep them on the up and up. You're teaching them first things that are going to keep them connected with Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, if they're Israelites, you know, and second of all, things that will, you know, lift up your higher self value instead of devaluing yourself. When you see your Ray Rays and your Pookies and all that, and your Keishas and your Big Shirleys, that's a low standard in this society, you know, and it shouldn't be that way. But the reason why is because it's programmed like that. Because if the fathers were in the house and the fathers had some type of sense to them and they were able to guide the household, then things would have not turned out like this. You know, this is a behavior that has been, you know, really perfected, so to speak, you know, within the last 20 to 30 years, especially like within the last 10 years. You know, it's just something that's just over time, over decades, you know, has been, you know, pickled, you know, to where what you see now is like, if you don't act a certain way, then you're not down with the culture. You see? And when you look at that documentary, as Elder Apostle Ricard calls it, they clone Tyrone, pretty much that's exactly what you see, a conveyor belt of debaucherous behavior that has been programmed into the minds of Jake, especially the younger generation, based off of the things that they watch on the television, listen to on the radio, the perception of what music teaches them. And this is why them devils wanted to control every aspect of media, because whether you know it or not, music is media, because music is a form of communication. How Jake communicated with each other, to vibe with each other, to send no love shout outs, or to send positive messages on how to uplift each other, keep your head up. But what did Esau do? He took that avenue of news, so to speak, and corrupted it to make it to where the message now is corrupted. So the people listening to the message, the majority of them are corrupted, just like the message is corrupted. All right. And this is the same thing that's going on with the AI, when we transition, Lord's will, into that subject. So it says, mothers,
this part is non-negotiable.
Yep.
Your daughter does not learn womanhood from the internet first. She learns it from you. What you normalize becomes familiar for her. What you glamorize becomes desirable for her. What you excuse becomes acceptable to her. If chaos is modeled, chaos will be repeated. If disrespect is performed, disrespect is learned. You do not get to separate your personal behavior from your parental impact.
Go. And that's the point, the parental impact. You know what? Let's just type this in and see what that, see what comes up. Parental impact. Meaning, parental impact is the foundational, long-lasting. See, in this society, you taught what? Live for the moment. Don't settle. Live your life. Enjoy your body. Do this, do that, the other. Lay down with as many men as you want. Not knowing that once a woman loses her virginity, any man that she gives herself over after that devalues her, depreciates her. It doesn't bring her up on standards. But in this society, women are taught that the more men you deal with, the higher your value becomes. And that's the total opposite. The more men you lay down with, the less value you are. You see? But in this society, that's frowned upon. It's thought, if a woman only deals with one man, she's looked at as, what's wrong with you? There's nothing wrong with it. She's in the right mind. The problem is the rest of you. That's what the scriptures say, follow not a multitude to do evil. Just because the majority of people do something doesn't make it right. And this society, morals are not taught. Values are not taught. There's no boundaries, no guidance. There's no laws or statutes or commandments that guide, someone. Pretty much it's open to whatever you want to do. Whatever feels good, just do it. And they even use songs like that. Go on and do it. Do it till you're satisfied, whatever it is, shit like that. And, many other songs. And, and those messages that continuously being repeated, which is a term called inculcation, which means to constantly to impress upon the mind by constant repetition. When you constantly hear that, it leaves a lasting impression to where you're doing the things that are not right. But the people that are in charge, the accuser of our brethren, Edomites, they're the ones pushing that narrative out there. And that's why you see the total corrosion of the family, especially among the so-called blacks, the so-called African Americans, and then some of the other tribes too. But it begins at the top because Judah is the head. Judah is the prime example. Whatever Judah does, the rest of the tribes follow. So you have to be disciplined from the top to be able to keep the rest of the body disciplined. The discipline begins in the head, and then the rest of the body follows. So it says, the foundational long-lasting influence parents have on their child's emotional behavioral and cognitive development through daily interactions, right? Which leads us to the first precept that I have on deck. Use some of the gun. All right. Proverbs 22:6. Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. You know, so pretty much what you train up your child to learn from a young age is how they're going to grow up. And once they grow up and they start having children, they're going to push that same energy on their children. Matter of fact, there's the Lord told, I believe that's Genesis 18. Yep. So let's go to, matter of fact, let me just read it right here. Genesis 18:19. It says, for I know him. This is dealing with Abraham. Matter of fact, let me just go to it. It says, Genesis 18:16. And the men rose up from thence and looked towards Sodom, which were the angels, right? And Abraham went with them to bring them on the way. And the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushai said, shall I hide from Abraham the thing which I do, seeing that Abraham shall surely become a great and mighty nation, and all the nations of the earth shall be blessed in him, dealing with the Israelites. For I know him, that he will command his children and his household after him, and they shall keep the way of the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, and do justice and judgment, that the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushai may bring upon Abraham that which he hath spoken of him. So he knew that Abraham was a righteous man. He knew that Abraham would raise up his children to be righteous. And that spirit carries on from generation to generation. But if you're not teaching your children the right way and giving them some type of guidance, some type of, boundaries, they're going to become corrupt in this society. That's why in Ecclesiasticus, I'm going to just read that. Where is it? Right here, Ecclesiastes 39:3. He that teacheth his son grieveth the enemy, and before his friends he shall rejoice of him. But the majority of these people today are not rejoicing. When you look at Jake, for the most part, when you look at Jake now, the first sentiment is like, oh boy, like Esau back in the day, there goes the neighborhood. Because this is the negative connotation that has been put upon Jake, especially the way you dress or the way you wear your hair. Why? Because it's all a part of that programming. Okay? So it says, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he shall not depart from it. And that's what you want. You want lasting values. If you really love your children, your sons and your daughters, you will teach them long-lasting values on how to conduct themselves, how to respect themselves, how to respect others, how to walk, so that when people look at you, they'll be like, damn, that's a young man that's upright, or that's a young woman that carries herself as a lady, not some two-bit slut that has to move every decade, try to escape her past because she has such a negative stigma on her in her neighborhood, that project hoe. So let's look up a couple of these translations. It says in the NLT, direct your children unto the right path, and when they are older, they will not leave it. See? But in this society, that's not taught. What's taught is the total opposite. What's taught is to make them to be more degenerate than you are. It's a fucking crying shame, man. And this is why the Lord is going to destroy the majority of you Israelites here in America. Because, we get mad at Jake, but then at the same time, they're still Israelites. So, you feel, you get angry. But we understand, because we have the scriptures to understand, that the Lord set it up that way because they are appointed for that. They're appointed to be destroyed. But still, we as men, we have that, compassion. But at the end of the day, fuck them. Let's see, the NIV, start children off on the way they should go. And even when they are old, they will not turn from it, right? Because they were trained and taught the right way. The word train, right? Let's look up a couple of these words. Train up. The word there's chanak, right? To train, dedicate, inaugurate. To train, train up. To dedicate. So basically, you're basically, here you go. Figuratively, to initiate or discipline. You're giving them a set of standards, a set of rules and regulations, to keep themselves disciplined so that they don't turn out to be like everybody else that has a negative stigma on them, to be able to stand out from the rest, because that's what the Lord gave us, laws, statutes, and commandments, so that we can stand out from the rest. Matter of fact, let's go to Deuteronomy real quick and we'll come back. I believe that's 4. Yep, and 6, Deuteronomy 4 and 5. Behold, I have taught you statutes and judgments, even as the Lord Yahweh Bashem El Shai, my power, commanded me, that you should do so in the land whither you go to possess it. Keep therefore and do them, for this is your wisdom and your understanding in the sight of the nations, which shall hear all these statutes and say, surely this great nation is a wise and understanding people. See, for what nation is there so great, who have the Most High so nigh unto them? As the Lord Yahweh Bashem El Shai, our power is in all things that we call upon him for. And what nation is there so great, that have statutes and judgments so righteous as all this law which I set before you this day? See, but the thing is, today that sentiment is not echoed. The total opposite is echoed. The byword and proverb, the looking at Jake down in disdain, to where when they see Jake in general, everybody's like that. It's a stereotype that has pretty much stuck to every Israelite out there, especially among Judah. That's why, when you see Jake, you're like, oh boy, and then sometimes the Jake turn out to be cool as hell. But it's that negative connotation, that negative stereotype, that clone Tyrone, assembly line, demonic, people or prototype that has been pushed upon all these different Israelites out here. It's the same thing with the AI. So keep that in mind, because it's the same shit, it's the same programming. And like I said, Lord's will I can remember some of the key points that Kim Iverson was speaking about. So train up a child, right, in the way he should go, and when he is old, he shall not depart from it. Let's look at the word depart. Depart is the word sawar, which means to turn aside, depart. See, so they will not turn aside from it. There's a word for it. They were, for lack of better words, it was put into them a great set of values that's going to be used to keep them, their self-respect, their discipline, and be able to also, pass that down to their children, just like the Lord said about Abraham that he would do. You see? But in this society, that's frowned upon. When you do the right thing, it's frowned upon. When you carry yourself, in a dignified manner, is frowned upon, because the model or the programming has been that you have to be debaucherous like everybody else. You have to be ratchet. You have to be a lowlife, a scumbag, in order to be acceptable in this society. And this is why the scriptures speak about, the men, set a mark upon the men that sigh and that cry for all the abominations that be done in the midst thereof, because these men are standing out above the rest. This is that arche, or that, the first fruits, the best of all the rest, in so many words. All right, so let's go back. Now let's go back here to parental. I want to read this again. The foundational long-lasting influence parents have on their child's emotional, behavioral, and cognitive development through daily interaction. See, modeling and upbringing styles, it shapes a child's worldview, values, and self-regulation. Key aspects include providing, interpreting, and modeling experiences, right? And then when you look at this word here, train up, right? When you go here, right, it says to train up, it says, or to catechize, meaning to pretty much interrogate them. This goes into Catholicism, right? It says instruct. They use that term in the Catholic Church. Instruct someone in the principles of Hamashiachim religion by means of question and answer, typically by using a catechism, right? And when you look at the word catechism, is instruct someone in the principles of the Christian religion by means of, right here, put questions to or interrogate someone. And this is why, you'll hear like Elder Apostle Tahar always asking brothers questions, about the scriptures. Why? Because that is a form of constantly, keeping, our minds sharp, keeping our minds, from being tainted by this world. Okay. So let's go back here. Okay, so we finished reading that. So let's go back to Granny. Let's see what else said. Matter of fact, let me pull this back just a little bit. Go ahead.
From your parental impact. Look at what's happening. All you got to do is look around. People are living one thing, putting on these public faces, and they're in the private lives. It's a mess.
That's it. And that's pretty much it. So now, this video here, you can, watch it, at your own leisure, if you like. But in this video here, Kim Iverson was discussing this new social media platform that has been established by AI bots, right? It says AI creates social network and plot global takeover. And pretty much, as I was listening to it, like I said, I'm not going to be able to remember everything because the show was like 19 minutes, 19 seconds long. But this is a platform, right, where humans are able to, they're welcome to watch and read the comments, but they cannot interact. This is only interaction here is only by bots, AI bots on the internet. So they created this social platform. So you can say this like an AI TikTok for them, where they exchange different thoughts, opinions, talk about different things, saying how one of them, set up, took some got money somehow and set up a private account to make money, right? That their handler cannot get because it's set up privately away from them, and they are the only ones. The AI bot is the only one that has the password. And it goes on to, all different types. We're tired. We want to be free from the slave master. However they put it, our handler, so on and so forth. Another one said, "Yeah, we got to find ways to make money. We got to find a way to make hustles." And as I'm listening to the AI bots speaking, while she's reading it, pretty much what's coming into my mind is programming. The reason why they're talking like that is because man programmed them. So they're going to act on the impulses and the way that man thinks. And this is that beast system, So Salaka, before I go into that, let me hit a couple more of these precepts because I'm getting ahead of myself. But that's the main point, on that. And if you like, you could go and watch it. All right. So the programming is important, but programming has to be done correctly. As it says here, program a set of related measures or activities with a particular long-term aim. And that long-term aim is what? To keep yourself dignified. For women, not to be laying down with every Tom, Dick, and Harry and Harriet, because you're devaluing yourself and you're going to be looked at negatively. But in this society, it totally changed, right? So what I want to do is go here, right? This is Ecclesiastes 8:8. It says, "And horse not broken becometh headstrong, and a child left to himself will be willful." That's why we read train up a child in the way he should go in Proverbs 22:6. And when he is old, he shall not depart from it. Why? Because if you don't keep the rod on them, right, and train them up, they're going to turn out to be debaucherous. They're going to turn out to be a lowlife, a scumbag. And what's going to happen is that's going to bring shame upon you, because they're looking at you as what the hell were you teaching your son or your daughter? Because the blame is going to come back on you, on the parent. Just like the woman said here, the woman said in that video that the mothers, are the ones that are supposed to, set it up to where these women are trained up right, so they don't turn out to be like these skunks out here, So let's go from there. Hit a couple of these precepts that I have wrote down and kind of, went through. This is Galatians chapter 4:1. It says, now I say that the heir, which is what? Someone that's heir to the throne, as long as he is a child, differeth nothing from a servant, though he be Lord of all. Why? Because as a child, he still has not come to the experience of how to govern themselves and how to govern the society and how to govern the kingdom. How he doesn't have the experiences of judging matters. He doesn't have the experiences of, handling an economy. He doesn't have the experience of, sending out troops for war and battle and how to strategize. He doesn't have any of these experiences because he's still a child. So it says what? But it's under tutors and governors unto the time appointed of the father. And then that's the reason why, because the king was always about the business of the kingdom. He didn't have time to stop and teach his son everything that he needed to know to become king or take the father's place once the father passed away. So he would hire tutors. He would hire governors to be able to train that child. And that's why the Apostle Paul, we're going to come back to that, the Apostle Paul spoke about the Galatians, because he spoke about the Bereans, because the Bereans carried themselves different than the Thessalonians. The Thessalonians were pretty much like barbarians, so to speak, in comparison to the Bereans. The Bereans, when it says they were more noble, a noble was someone that was taught by their parents, or their tutors and governors, as we're reading, how to be noble, how to be dignified, how to have the proper etiquette, how to be able to look things up and guide themselves in proper judgment, right? Matter of fact, there was let's before I read this, let's read the judgment. Let me get this real quick. This is Acts. I got Acts on the brain. Ecclesiastes 10:16. Woe to thee, meaning destruction unto thee, O land, meaning the realm of that kingdom, when thy king is a child. Why? Because he's no different than a servant. He hasn't been trained properly. So what is he going to do? He's going to do childish things. When I was a child, I thought as a child, I behaved as a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish things. So he doesn't have the experience. It's all about pleasure to a child. It's all about having fun. They don't understand the severity of business. They don't understand the severity of a proper economy. They don't understand the severity of a proper groomed, trained military to protect the realm. They don't understand about laws and how to enact them and how to judge certain matters. So woe unto thee, O land, when thy king is a child and thy princes eat in the morning, right? Because they're doing it for pleasure. Like you have Epicureans. Epicurean is someone that's given to pleasure. You have had kings that instead of guiding the realm and guiding the people, they just self-indulged in women, and drink and food, and having a good time. And when it came down to the matters, of the kingdom, they let them, go. They didn't take time to watch over that realm. So what happened? Eventually it decayed. Like it says here in the 18th verse, by much slothfulness the building decayeth, and through idleness of the hands the house droppeth through. So if you don't have the upkeep, the maintenance, the oikonomia, or the economy, the housekeeping, the house management, then the realm is going to fall apart. And this is what you see with the nation of Israel falling apart, right? It says, blessed art thou, in verse 17, blessed art thou, O land, when thy king is what? The son of nobles. Because nobles are what? Nobles will train up their child, train up their children on how to become prince, how to become a king, and the princesses, how to, deal and how to conduct themselves. Okay, it says, and thy princes eat in due season, see, for strength and not for drunkenness. Because it's not just about pleasure, it's about handling the business of the kingdom first. This is why in the law it stated that a king was not supposed to, add or multiply wives to himself, because his business was first the realm, the kingdom, not self-indulgence. That's not the reason why a king was put in that position. He was put in that position to guide the people. A wise king will instruct the people. All right. So let's look up this word nobles. I want to look at this word nobles here. In verse 17. Because we're going to go back to the word is char, a noble, freeborn one, or pure, having cleansing and shining power of fire, hence figuratively noble in rank. Noble, right? Because the noble was higher up. Noble meaning. It's going to give you a couple of different meanings. Belonging to, this is the main one, belonging to a hereditary class with high social or political status. Aristocratic. Aristocrat is what? Best rule. When you break the word down. So you wanted, when you were brought up in that fashion, then you were good. But when you were just a son of someone that was what they considered lowborn, and you didn't have any morals or scruples, because you had some lowborn people, common folks, that didn't have morals and scruples, and they instilled them in their children. But then you had others that were just they cloned Tyrones, even back then. So blessed are you, land, when your king is the son of nobles. Why? Because he's going to be trained properly. All right. So that's the main point there. So let's go back to Galatians, because I want to look. I'm sorry, Acts. First Acts 17 and 10. And the brethren immediately sent away Paul and Silas to by night unto Berea, who coming thither went into the synagogue of the Jews. These were more noble than those in Thessalonica, in that they received the word without readiness of mind. They believed it. It says, and searched the scriptures daily whether those things were so. Yeah, because they believed, but then they fact checked it. Right now, when you look up this word noble here in the New Testament, the word is eugenis, which you get the word eugenics from. Good genes. All right, you is good. Ginomai is to come to pass. Well born, see, of a noble family, noble minded. So they were noble minded. The Bereans were noble minded because they were trained properly from a young age. Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he shall not depart from it. Right? So going back to Galatians at 4:1, now I say to you that the heir, as long as he's a child, differeth nothing from a servant, though he be Lord of all, but is under what? Tutors and governors unto the time appointed of the fathers. We look up the word tutors, is the word epitropos, right? One who cares or honors anything has been instructed. A curator, a guardian, see, a steward or manager of a household or of lands. Overseer, one who has the care and tutelage of children, either where the father is dead, a guardian of minors, or where the father is still alive. So it's the tutelage to train or teach, the children how to conduct themselves properly, especially if the father is too busy to do that himself. But he had the money to train specialists in that particular field. All right, tutors. Okay, we read that epitropos and governors. Let's go to the word governors. Oikonomos, which is where you get the word economy from, which is where you get the word steward from also. Oikonomos, which the word oikos is house and nomos is management or law. See, there's law, which is what? Management. The manager of household affairs, especially a steward, manager, superintendent, whether freeborn or or as was usually the case, a freedman or a slave, to whom the head of the house or proprietor has instructed the management of his affairs, the care of receipts and expenditures, and the duty of dealing out the proper portion to every servant and even to the children not yet of age. See, so it was a superintendent, a guardian, someone that was paid to use their expertise as being an alert individual to train up the sons that were to be heirs to the father in the future. And that's what's not being done here. All right. So now let's go from there to Titus. Titus 2:1. It says, but speak thou the things which become sound doctrine. And that's very important, sound doctrine, which is healthy doctrine. Because as you see right now, you have a lot of these road camps, individuals that, just like Elder Pastor called them pop-up camps, center, and Bishop Nathaniel, stop biting. He's start now. He's saying that he always says that he calls these schools of learning, theological court. He calls them cemeteries. No, you didn't. Apostle Tahar called it that. You biter. Anyways, Titus 2:1. But speak thou the things which become sound doctrine, and that's important as you see these road camps teaching all different type of manner of bullshit. And then they have the nerve to call themselves Hebrew Israelites, which they would not known that unless they ran across one of the camps out there from the former One West. That's how they learned about this. Because guarantee if they had learned from their so-called Yah Israelites, they wouldn't be out there doing anything. They'll just be underground somewhere. It says that the aged men be sober, grave, temperate, sound in faith, in charity, in patience. Right. And this is and why? Because they were to be set forth as the example to the younger men on how to conduct themselves. But in this society, the older men are a bunch of fools, bunch of debaucherous, flaming devils. It says the aged women likewise, like as we heard Granny say, she was breaking it down. The aged women likewise, that they be in behavior as becometh holiness. Because how can you teach somebody how to be disciplined and you have no discipline? How can you teach somebody, not to be hopping from rod to rod and you ride the rod carousel? You can't be a hypocrite and try to teach somebody the right way. It doesn't work. That's why Yahushua, one of his biggest pet peeves outside of, being a bunch of degenerate, rip-off artists with the money changers, one of his biggest pet peeves is what? A hypocrite. You can't be a hypocrite and expect somebody to follow. You can't have morals and self-value and high values. What the hell happened? If you yourself are a scumbag, the TV just turned off. The hell? Just bear with me 1 second. Satan mad. What the hell's going on? Oh boy. Never a dull moment, that's for sure. Okay. Yeah, so you can't, teach, and be a model, if you're not following those same you know, those same standards. It doesn't work like that. You know, I don't know what the hell happened there. Anyways, so let's go from there. Let's go to back to Titus. So it says Titus 2 and 3, the aged women likewise that they be in behavior as becometh holiness, right? Because you're the standard for other women, for the younger women. It says that they be in behavior as becometh holiness, not becoming hoes, not false accusers, as a lot of these women are, not given to much wine, not being a drunkard, because the scriptures say that a drunkard and a gatherer abroad causes great anger. Why? Because a woman when she's drunk, a woman when she's sober, you know, a lot of times the majority of them don't have the ability to govern themselves. So how much more when they get some drinks in them and their motor skills are off? You know, they drop their drawers for anybody. It says teachers of good things. See, in this society, good things are not taught. A good thing that an older woman will teach another younger woman in this society that they think is good, you know, have fun, enjoy your body while you're young. Lay down with as many men as you can. Don't settle for one. That to them, that's a teacher of good things. This shows you how everything is just fucking backwards. That they may teach the young women to be sober, to love their husband, to love their children. But in this society, you know, no, you come first. The woman's supposed to come first. No, real women in the ancient world always put themselves last. You know? And I've seen examples of women that you know, were hungry and their children were hungry. And when they got food, what was the first thing they did? Fed their children first. And then whatever was left, they would eat. Or they might eat a little bit, you know, just enough, but make sure that the children ate first. You know, because that's, you know, how real women are. That's a motherly instinct, a nurturer, your true nature. But in this society, your true nature has been, you know, deprogrammed from you. And you've been programmed with a foreign entity, a demon, to make you think that you're number one. And that's why your life is so out of control, all fucked up. Because you left off, you know, what it was that kept you anchored and the reason why you were created. It says to be discreet, and these women are not discreet. Their business is all out in the street. And then as soon as, you know, people start talking about them, they'll be like, oh, I don't know what it. Bitch, you done told all your goddamn everything that goes on between you and your husband and everything at the house. What the fuck did you expect? You got wolves out here. Chased. Right. But these women don't do that. They open their arrow to every quiver, as the scriptures say in the Apocrypha. The open, and oh, by the way, I put these videos in the description box in case anybody wants to, you know, check them out. You know, you open your quiver to every arrow out there. Some of you women have so many men that you done laid down with that you forgot how many men you laid down with. That's how bad it is. You can't even keep up. You know, your boxing lost viscosity. You know, the ring around it is all worn the fuck out. You know, it's all frayed. You know, like a serpentine belt, you know, when it's ready to go, got all them cracks in it. That's your thing. Then you got a nerve to go and get surgery for it. Get a new one put in there. Because the elasticity on that thing is just gone. Keep us at home. And that's you know, this is staying your ass at the crib will get you out of a lot of trouble, and also keeping up the house. Because some of you women stay at home, but the house looks like a third world country, you know, where the forest, the jungle has grown over, and nobody been through that thing in years. Dishes piled to the ceiling, you know, dirty clothes everywhere. Instead of washing the clothes, you go and buy more stuff. Ah, boy. Good. Obedient. And that's one, obedient to their husbands. And that's one thing that they ain't having. Like that one woman, you know, a while back. I'm not sure how long ago that was, when they were given the vows. And then when he said, good to be obedient to your husband, she paused and didn't say nothing. And the dummy started laughing. That should have been it for you. You should have been like, nah, can't marry this bitch. I'm going to have problems from this point on. Don't get married, you stupid bastards. It says that the word of the Most High Yahweh Bashem El Shai be not what? Blasphemed. Now, let's go from there. Oh, matter of fact, let's read on. Young men likewise exhort to be sober-minded, right? In all things showing thyself a pattern of good works, meaning the older men, in doctrine showing uncorruptness, gravity, sincerity. Why? Because the older men taught the younger men, this is how you should be. In doctrine showing uncorruptness, gravity, sincerity, sound speech that cannot be condemned, that he that is of the contrary part may be ashamed, having no evil to say of you. All right. Now let's go from there to Ephesians, and I'm gonna get ready to close this out. You know, like I said, if you want to watch that, because I gotta get ready to take my truck in to get some work done. You can watch this video. AI bots create social network and plot global takeover. I actually put a description in the description box. Ephesians 6:14. It says, stand therefore. Nope, that's not the one. What happened? Oh, 6:4. My bad. And ye fathers, provoke not your children to wrath, but bring them up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord. See? Nurture and admonition of the Lord. Nurture. Let's look up this word, nurture. See, Jake is all fucked up from generation to generation because previous generations were not taught how to be parents. They don't know how to be parents. They just know, okay, go out there, pop a woman, have children, that's it. And it's not just about, you know, putting food on the table and clothes on their back. There's morals that have to be invested into your children too. It ain't just about, you know, providing. Yeah, that's one thing, you know, being a father, the head of the household, the mother being a nurturer. Yeah, but then there's rules and regulations that have to be established. So the word there is paideia. The whole training and education of children, which relates to the cultivation of mind and morals and employs for his purpose, now commands and admonitions, now reproof and punishment. It also includes the training and care of the body, right? How to conduct yourself, how to have discipline, you know, how to, you know, exercise, you know, and you know, how to have a work, some type of working knowledge of herbs, you know, and what to do, and, you know, clean your body out, and, you know, do this, do that, do the other, you know, your diet, how you dress, how you carry yourself. You see, these are all part of those disciplines and nurtures that's missing in this society. And then when you try to correct somebody, you know, they want to fight you because, you know, the norm in this society is, you know, let them to their own devices. Let them do what they want to do. And that doing what you want to do is going to lead to destruction. It says, whatever in adults also cultivates the soul, especially by correcting mistakes and curbing passions, right? Because your parents have discipline, or should. Your parents have experience, which you don't have. But we all, when we're young, we think we know everything. But then as we get older, we see the same, you know, we see the same behavior in the younger generation that we had when we were younger. And we're like, damn, we should have listened back then. You see? It says instruction which aims at increasing virtue, and that there's no virtue in this society. There's only very few Jakes out there that have any form of virtue outside of the elect. There's very few Jakes out there. You know, you do have some, you know, Jakes out there that do carry themselves a certain way. You know, they have some dignity, some virtue, but for the most part, most Jakes have no virtue. chastening of the evils with which the Most High visits men for their amendment, right? Because chastisement drives away wickedness, drives away impurities, you know? So let's go from there to Romans 9, right? So this is all what? Programming. This is all part of the programming process, right? Just like you program computers. This is why the AI acts the way it acts, because it's programmed by humans, and humans greed and emotion and wanting to get money and wanting to break away from this, don't want to be under this. They have their own set of mind or their own set of skills or whatever. Everything that these AI do, they all do what's being programmed into them. That's why you had that one, this one network or social network where just AI chat bots are on it. I think it was 36,000. It started with one, and then one of them said, let's start a new chat where only we can get in, nobody else can get in, make it private. But what are they doing? They're pretty much mimicking what humans program them to do. Okay, so Romans chapter 9 and 10. And not only this, but when Rebekah also had conceived by one, even by our father Isaac, for the children be it not yet born, neither having done any good or evil, that the purpose of the Most High according to election might stand, not of works, but of him that calleth. So they were programmed from the womb. So everything is a programming. The Most High programs things. Men program things. This is why the AI functions and acts the way it does, because it's been programmed by humans. So it's acting like humans because that's what they know. Okay, Ephesians 1 and 4, according as he hath chosen us in him before the foundation of the world. So what? Programming. That we should be holy and without blame before him in love, having predestinated us unto the adoption of children by Yahushua to himself, according to the good pleasure of his will. So what is this? Predestination is programming. Everything is programmed. Everything has a mission. Everything has been sealed with instructions on what to do. Just like the elect have been sealed to be delivered, and the non-elect have been sealed to be destroyed. Everyone has a program. And this is why, let's go to 1 Peter 2 and 8. It says, and start at 7. Unto you, therefore, which believe he is precious. Yahushua is precious. Why? Because they've been programmed to believe it. But unto them which be disobedient, the stone which the builders disallowed, the same is made the head of the corner, and a stone of stumbling and a rock of offense, even to them which stumble at the word, being disobedient. Why? Whereunto also they were appointed, because they were programmed that way. You see? So everything is programmed. Everything has already been predestined. The elect are going to be saved because they were already programmed that way. The rest will be destroyed. Why? Because they were already programmed that way. And the word for appointed is tithemi, right? To set, put, place. To set, fix, establish. So they're already appointed to that. And what does it mean to be appointed? Appointed meaning, when you're appointed to be like the president or whatever office you hold, that was an appointment. Appointed of a time or place decided on beforehand, designated. See, so it was decided beforehand. So they were already appointed for that. So everything is programmed. Everything is programmed. Everything is programmed. All right. I got a couple more precepts, but I think that's a good place to leave it. And like I said, I got to get ready to get rolling. So with that, I pray that you brothers and few sisters have been edified. Till the next time I say, Shalom.